All right.
Yeah, well said, brother. So now we have a question from the book of Revelations. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
There it is. So, Brother Sam, can you explain who were the 24 elders the Apostle John was referring to in the book of Revelations? Of course, they're mentioned multiple times. For instance, I'm going to be preaching pretty soon from Revelation 7, and it was mentioned there as well.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to answer this, but real quickly, as Christian Eliason said something, that David looked shocked when Bart Ehrman said no Jew believed the Messiah was going to be sacrificed. Okay. I want to address that next. Maybe you can bring it up.
All right.
So, okay, anyway, let me read this. Number one, John nowhere tells us who the 24 elders are, so that any interpretation will be based on conjecture, meaning unless John himself, who's inspired by the Holy Spirit to write down the visions that he is seeing, tells us black and white plainly, these are who the 24 elders are, it's going to be simply conjecture on anyone's part. Anyone who tells you these are who they are, it's conjecture. They don't know absolutely infallibly because the text doesn't tell us. So with that said, second line of evidence. If you read Revelation 5 carefully, whoever the 24 elders are, they are distinct from humanity. What do I mean? In Revelation 5, verses 8 to 14, it says the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures glorified the Lamb for redeeming by his blood men from all nations, all languages, and all tribes. This assumes that the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures are not part of mankind because they're distinguishing themselves from mankind, the human beings that Jesus ransomed by his blood. So that means they're not humans, because if they were humans, they would be part of the humanity that Jesus redeemed from all nations, all languages, all tribes, right? So they talk about Jesus purchasing from all nations, all languages, all tribes, and they're not included. So this is strong indication these are spirit creatures. Well, who are these spirit creatures? Well, again, I don't know. I'm not told, but I can assume that 24 would represent the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles. So that's why they're 24. You have the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles who represent new Israel, spiritual Israel. So possibly these are the 24 spirit representatives of the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles. Possibly. And the reason why I say possibly, because if you go to Revelation 21, verses 9 and 14, it talks about heavenly Jerusalem, which is the bride of the Lamb, which is the city where all believers, the redeemed, will dwell in forever and ever, coming down from heaven as a bride adorned for her husband, and her husband is the Lamb. That's Revelation 21. And then in verses 9 and 14, we're given the dimensions, and we're told its walls, and that it has 12 gates, 12 gates. And each gate is named after one of the 12 tribes of Israel. But these gates have foundations. And the 12 foundations of these 12 gates are named after the 12 lambs, 12 apostles of the Lamb. So 12 gates named after the 12 tribes of Israel, built on 12 foundations named after the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So 12 apostles, 12 tribes, 24. Most likely the 24 elders would be the spirit representatives, those spirit creatures that represent and stand in the place of the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles representing the church, the new Israel. Possibly, but I can't be definitive. I don't know if that answered the question.
It does, brother.